My name's Nick Powell. I'm the Managing Director of a company called PE Partner, and we've been working with primary schools, which I assume predominantly the people in the room are working with primary schools and in primary schools. We've been working with primary schools for over 10 years now, and with Leeds Beckett's University, School of Education, outstanding schools, schools in special measures, coaches, everybody who's part of that picture really, and children, to try and work out and look at the challenges that primary schools face. Now, a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about, just in the first part of the presentation, is health related. Now this, when we're looking at what primary schools can do, is quite a narrow part of the picture. We've seen a really wide picture in the other presentations that we've seen this morning, and there's obviously elements that are beyond our remit, but where I see it is we've got 2 hours of captive activity with these kids where we can make them enjoy PE. So that's got to be our first point of call, really. So we started off looking at this, and we're constantly reviewing what we do as a company, and we've tried to isolate what are schools for. Now, they get bombarded with so many different priorities, and this is one of the issues that we've got today, is that we're all sports professionals. We all want sport to be prioritised in schools, but we do understand the climate that primary schools are in at the moment makes it difficult. They're in a bit of a juxtaposition where they've been given this money, but it's still quite low on their priority list, unfortunately. And that's the climate that we're working in. So in our opinion, schools are to prepare children for an adult life. Okay? So that is everything. That is so that they can read and write, so that they can go into the world of work, like we just heard from the last workshop. It's also so that they're healthy, so that they can go forward and get those 10, 20 years back that we've talked about, that somebody mentioned earlier, that we've lost from them. A school's challenge in this context, and what we've talked about so far this morning, is can we keep today's kids out of tomorrow's hospitals? There is a crisis coming. We know, we've been told about an obesity crisis that's coming. I've got some statistics on there. As I say, I'll go through those fairly quickly because my remit here today is to show you through our products that we think can help, okay? We'll go through the statistics, but let's look at some essential information that we need to be aware of. This is from Public Health England, and this is on their website. And childhood obesity and excess weight are significant health issues for individual children, their families, and public health. Serious implications on the physical, and we've talked about mental health as well, which can then follow into adulthood. So again, it's that keeping kids out of hospital in 30 years' time. It's a very big ambition for schools, but there's something they've actually got to approach now. The numbers of children who continue to have an unhealthy and potentially dangerous weight is a national public health concern. Okay? These are just some figures. And again, I apologise if you know these figures, if I'm covering things that we've already looked at. Entering reception class, 1 in 5 children are classed as obese or overweight. By the time they are in year 6 and going into high school, we've got 1 in 3. So we've got a problem within the primary school years. Now, that isn't a problem that's the cause of, primary schools aren't the root cause of this. They're not to blame. They're part of the picture. We've looked at lots of social and communities and families and role models that have got to be part of this. But we've got an opportunity as primary schools to try and do something about this. I'll leave the obesity statistic up there. I'll just bring some more up. In England, and again, these are from Public Health England, only 21% of boys and 16% of girls aged 5 to 15 achieve the recommended level of physical activity. As children grow older, the decrease in activity levels is greater for girls and boys, and I'll leave those statistics there. But we've got to reverse the trend as a society, as a community, and in this little area of our work as primary schools. These figures are why primary school and PE sport funding is now being part funded by health. That changes the priorities of PE lessons. That clearly then says to us there's a health agenda around PE lessons. So we've just been talking about pathways, we've just been talking about elite sport, which are all still important, but this changes the priorities of a teacher, a school looking at their children. It becomes more about the kids who have a terrible lifestyle, and we've heard the phrase this morning, hate sport. Our job is to change that. Our job is to give them the best opportunity we can give them, the best chance they've got to enjoy PE lessons, because that's when we've got them captive, that's when we don't need the parental support, that's where there's no barriers of economics, they're in our schools, they've got a statutory right to a physical activity lesson. It's up to us to make that the best opportunity, the best experience that can be for them. What we have, a problem in primary schools, and our experience of primary schools tells us this, is that traditionally, the PE coordinator in a primary school, and forgive me if you're a senior teacher who's been doing this a while, PE coordinators in primary schools tend to be quite young NQTs quite often. And we've seen an awful lot of turnover of those PE coordinators. But they've now got the second biggest ring-fenced budget in school to manage. They've also got the challenge of how do they, and they can tend to be the tracksuit ones, the ones that come out of university, and they love sport and they've got loads of enthusiasm for it. How do they engage the teachers who've been in school for 30 years and upskill a much more senior teacher than themselves by saying, going into the lesson and going, your PE lesson's not very good. That's not going to go down very well, and it puts them on a really difficult position to start with. Their challenge is to get staff and the SLT to see PE as an important subject, not a hindrance. I'll be honest with you, we have got head teachers who ring us and say, how do we get rid of this money? That's awful. It's an awful thing. But unfortunately, I can't blame the head teachers because they've been bombarded with so many other priorities that they are struggling. They trust us that it's going to be applied in the right way. But the PE coordinator, put yourselves in their situation, as I say, as a young, potentially NQT, potentially QTS, who's given that role. The other flip side of that is if they show flair and they show really good leadership skills, they tend to then move into a year leadership role or a different subject leadership role, and there's a real turnover of young PE coordinators. So how do they get staff to see the SLT and the SLT to see PE as an important subject? So you've got to find the motivating factors for the rest of the school and the other teachers who maybe don't buy into PE. My sister is a primary school teacher. She's been there 18 years. And when I showed her our curriculum, I'm going to come on to and show you, she literally said, why would anybody care that much about PE? And that's the battle we've got. She's a great sounding board for me because she's the opposite. Because I think PE is really important. She kind of doesn't, okay? But the evidence is absolutely overwhelming. We cannot stress enough to the head teachers and the schools that we work with, the evidence is overwhelming. If your kids have a good attitude to their own health, a better diet, and are more active, the better chance they have to excel academically. Your schools will benefit from healthier kids. Now, the way we get to healthier kids is getting kids to enjoy and look forward to PE lessons for me. I'll bring that up again. That's the statement we had up earlier, which is the number of children who continue to have unhealthy and potentially dangerous weight is a national public health concern. Unfortunately, as with a lot of other areas that are traditional parenting roles, you're now being tasked with this. So this idea of getting the kids active is now being put on your door. Because we've talked about communities and parents and everybody else being those role models. Sometimes that doesn't happen. But you've got a responsibility and you've also got a lot of money to make that happen. This is simply, this is quite a long statement, so I won't read it out, but obviously I've highlighted some key words in there. So lifestyle choice, brighter future, boosts mental well-being. As a room full of people who've attended a conference called Future of Sport, I'm preaching to the converted. You know that's why we're here, because we see that there's a power of sport that can help schools, help those kids, help society go forward. Because it's public health money, it's clear that this is a time bomb on the public purse. This is pressure on the NHS that they're trying to avoid by giving you the money at primary schools, £320 million a year at the moment, to try and help them alleviate what's going to happen in the hospitals in 30 years' time. Less time than that. So our challenge, when we started looking at our curriculum and our products and how do we set this up, has to be look at what the challenges are for primary schools and see if we can address it. For me, that's how all products should work. I shouldn't sell you something I want to sell you. I should tell you something that solves a problem you've got. I should design a product that solves a problem. So that's what we've tried to do. We've tried to empower all PE practitioners, recognising that PE is delivered by a range of people, TAs, teachers, coaches. There are good and bad coaches. We've heard that before. The guys from Greenhouse sounded like excellent coaches and they're doing really good work. There are also coaches that apply to companies and they don't meet minimum deployment standards, but they can tell you all the schools they've worked in because no one checks. Let's be honest. There are coaches that PE is outsourced to them, and because they're a sports coach, you kind of just go, well, they're a sports specialist, so they're doing it. Now, when we've said to head teachers who are using coaches, fantastic using coaches, that's fine. Do you know what they're delivering? Do you know what curriculum they are delivering? And they've kind of looked at us and gone, well, he does a bit of football and a bit of netball and a bit of basketball, and that's the way that it works. We've got to be rigorous when we're bringing coaches in. Are we giving them a fit-for-purpose curriculum which gives young people the opportunity and skills to enjoy being physically active? Now, to me, the key here is I work in this sector because I want to give kids the opportunity to enjoy being physically active. Our strapline as a company is increasing and improving physical activity for all. Okay, so it's getting rid of those bad experiences, making more opportunities for kids to get involved. Which brings me on to the curriculum and how we've worked it out, okay? Now, what I'm going to show you here is an online demo of the curriculum, if it pops up. This is where you all go for lunch because it doesn't work. These are IT people there. There we go. Right, okay. Once you've logged it, this is a trial that is available for all of you. After this presentation, you can go home, you go back to your schools and you can speak to your PE coordinators, you can speak to the people, the SSCOs, the county sports partnerships you work with. You can have a play around with this. What we've done is we've made some lessons live, we've shown you the tools that are in there. We've created a platform. Now, 90% of the power of this platform for me is in the curriculum, because if the lesson plans are terrible, what's the point? So we started off by standardising our curriculum. Now, if you put 1,000 lesson plans in front of a teacher who doesn't really understand PE and doesn't know where to start, it's like putting none in front of them, because they don't know what to pick. And if you've got drag and drop, pull this warm-up in, pull that session in, they don't know if they're covering everything. We're still in the stage where a lot of people have gone through teacher training and they've maybe only had 7-8 hours looking at PE during their degree. We know that that's the case. But then they're getting into a school, we're giving them a class and saying, right, you've now got 80 hours of PE to teach these kids a year. Where do they start? So we looked at it and we looked at all the curriculums that are out there and we spoke to lots of teachers and we said, what do you want? And they said, we want a complete lesson plan that all fits together, that we know that if we deliver these lesson plans, we're hitting all the transferable skills that the kids need and we're not missing anything. But PE planning can't be my priority because I've got other priorities. So if you can give me a lesson plan and you can give me a delivery schedule so I know what I'm delivering when, so that we meet everything, and an assessment framework so we can track progress, that's what we need. So really simply, we put this together. So we're teaching transferable skills. The reason it's called the Spiral curriculum, and again, I apologise if I'm preaching to anybody who already knows this, we're covering the same topic and we're getting harder every year. So we're covering the same challenges and we're increasing the level every year for them. As you'd expect, we've broken it down into key stage 1. Now in our curriculum, we've lumped reception in, so we've got a full scheme of work for reception, and we've got agility, balance, coordination for the younger ones, and then we look at the cognitive, physical manipulation for the older ones. And the cognitive side of things has been a real boon in the curriculum because it's allowed kids who haven't traditionally shined at PE to be the best in the class. And that's then boosted their confidence for other areas. So they get to referee, there's teamwork opportunities, can they deliver feedback? Because not everybody can be Sally Gunnell winning the Olympics, but we can be the coaches, we can be the hosts, we can be the mentors for people, we can be enthusiastic parents for the next generation of kids that come through if we've got a transferable set of skills and we understand it. And as I say, not everybody is going to excel at every area. We've then broken down those focus areas into 6 skill areas under each one. So there are 18 skill areas that the kids are working on. And that is what we've looked at and gone, is that a full transferable toolkit? And that's what we're teaching. We are teaching transferable skills. So we'll be teaching passing. And that lesson might look like a basketball lesson, but we're focusing on the passing element. It might look like a multi-sports lesson where we have hockey, basketball, netball, and we're focusing on the passing skill and saying to the kids, this is transferable. The same with things like reactions and evaluation. You can see the cognitive ones there. things like timing. They're all transferable skills. And again, they all benefit school because you're increasing their gross and their fine motor skills by teaching them that. You're not going, how many kids do we know who are good at one thing and go, I can't, I know lots of footballers who go, I can't use my left foot. I'm rubbish at this, but I'm good at that, so I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to do what I'm already good at, because from a self-confidence point of view, I want to do what I'm good at. I don't want to practice what I'm bad at. So we need to bring up their confidence in all those areas and send them out away from school at year 6 with a full toolkit. So what we do is this analogy that we teach them 18 skill areas, as you'll see there, and we teach them in a vertical way. So my best analogy for that would be that if you want a year 6 child to be able to perform a sidestep in a game of rugby at full speed and make the right decision, start with a reception child standing on one leg for 5 seconds, and then upgrade his balance as he goes through the school. Upgrade that skill set so that you're not going, here's a group of year 1s, we're going to play a game of full rugby, off we go. Because they just don't have the skills. Everything's got to be modified down. You've got to focus on the skills. You've got to build them up. And all the competitive games that we play with the smaller ones are all modified versions. So we don't hang the kids out to dry by just asking them to do things they can't do. So that's the framework of the curriculum. Here we go. Make it really simple for teachers. I am teaching year 4. I am in week 21 of the schedule. There's my lesson plan. The third one down, equipment, is what do I get out of the PE cupboard? And it's that kind of level of practicality. And again, one of the things I would say very much about this is we've brought a lot of practical things to this. We haven't gone blue sky thinking what would be amazing. We've gone what will actually happen in schools. Now we know, because we've got about, I think there's about 7,000 children being taught through this system currently. And we know, because we've got anecdotal evidence and we've spoken to teachers that say, I get my lesson plan up 5 minutes before the lesson when I'm stood in the PE cupboard, I've got it on my tablet and I go, what do I need out? They look at it, they've got a learning objective. You can see this one is in the cognitive area. It's a year 4 lesson, it's a sample lesson, and they're looking at tactical awareness. So we give them the learning objective, we give them an assessment point. So the can I question that's up there, there are 36 end of year expectations for every year group in school. So very similar. Part of this comes from my time as a governor in a school. So I spent 2 years as a governor and then 2 years as a chair of governors at my boys' school, looking at all the data that was coming in and how we were making improvements and interventions and going, this rigour needs applying to PE. So we need can I questions, we need end of year expectations, we need to be able to measure progress of these kids. Practically, we need to give the teachers who have got no confidence delivering PE because of their 8 hours on a degree sometimes, a lesson plan. Just follow the lesson plan. So what you can do is you can now concentrate on your delivery, making it fun, making it enthusiastic, because in any situation where you're not very confident, it's because you don't have the support and you don't have the tools and you don't have the experience. So if we can solve some of those things, their confidence grows. As their confidence grows, they will deviate from some of the ideas we've given them. So over time, they'll become more confident because they've got a tool to go with. So the way we've worked, as I said, the lesson plan here, you'll see, I don't know if you can see this area, but this is set up 6 small cricket areas, each with 1 wicket and 1 cone 4 metres away. Because the worst thing I've ever seen in a primary school is a 15-a-side game of cricket that lasts an hour, and I have genuinely seen it where the class teacher is into bat for about half an hour of that time. Okay? There's kids out in the outfield making daisy chains, and that's fine for their social development, but they're not learning any transferable skills. Put them in a group of 5, 1 wicketkeeper, 1 batsman, 1 bowler, 2 fielders, rotate them round. In this lesson, it's about tactical awareness. So what you do is you say to the bowler, I want you to set the position of where the fielders are. Now think about, we're not asking you to sort a full game of cricket out, but this batsman, you know him really well. He's going to hit it really far. So where do you want John and Susan to stand? So I'm going to say, can you stand over there? Can you stand over there? Because I'm anticipating that he's going to hit it over there. So you're giving them a little inkling into tactical awareness, okay? So that doesn't mean the kid who can hit it furthest is the best in the lesson, because that's not what you're assessing. You're assessing, can I manage a team? Can I be tactically aware about what's coming, what's going to happen? And that's clearly a transferable skill. So we give them a warm-up, we give them technical basics, we give them pressured skill, and we give them a competitive skill. Now, if they don't get through those phases, that's fine. This curriculum cannot work for every child in every school, all up and down the country. But it is a really good starting point for every lesson where I know my kids, I don't need to do that one, I can go straight into this. We won't get to the competitive skill game, that's fine. We're working on the transferable skill. We give them all a cool down. And what we've tried to do, again, we're working on teachers who maybe are unconfident, but also coaches that are coming into your school that maybe do know what they're doing. We've tried to keep the jargon out of it. So it's not little arrows and drills and things that might fear people and look like traditional sports sessions. It's written down. Get partner 1 to stand behind a red cone, partner 2 is 2 meters away behind a white cone. Simple as that. But when they do want to have a little bit more information, there's these little links inside the lessons that say, if you click on here, this will show you what it does. Clearly this is not my machine. There we go. So that's how the lesson plans work. They work within the framework. What we've also done then is, and we want to upskill the teachers, so we haven't given them everything on a plate. We've given them 1 lesson a week, and then we've given them a template so they can write their own lesson plan within our framework. And again, our suggestion is that deliver our lesson first and then write a lesson that works on the same learning objective in the same skill area, but base it on what you've seen. Now, this should increase their confidence. That's the idea. So you've got the lesson planning template. So that's really how the curriculum side of it works. All the transferable skills delivered in a specific order so that if you've got a supply in or you've got someone covering a lesson, they can go, I'm in week 4, that's the lesson I'm delivering. It would have been the same lesson had somebody else been delivering it. You can chop them, change them. One of the main things about it is that we don't work in schemes of work anymore. There isn't a block of invasion games. They might be doing football one week and then dodgeball the next week, and then cricket the next week, and then gymnastics the next week, and then athletics the next week, and a fitness circuit. The kids don't get bored because, again, in our experience, if you say to a group, we're going to be doing netball for 5 weeks, or we're going to be doing invasion for 5 weeks, the kids who don't like competitive sport shrink back, and they then go, I'm not looking forward to PE. And that's the key. We've got to get them looking forward to PE. Some of the example resources that are just inside the lesson plans, if you clicked on things, it just shows you positions of how, that's an example of 2 different styles of catching, depending on whether it's high or low. Because why would a teacher know that? My sister wouldn't have a clue, she can't catch a cold, so that would be quite useful to her. So what we've done then is we've looked at that's the curriculum side of things, we've looked at other areas of school challenges for SLTs, for governors who are now held responsible for their knowledge of what you're doing with your PE premium, for the PE coordinators that we've talked about. So within there, what we've done within your teacher tools is there is a teacher development tracker, and this is a self-assessment tool. So now I'm a young teacher saying to all my staff, some of them are probably a bit more senior than me, could you please go on and do a self-assessment of your confidence levels in these different areas of PE? Now, these are all password protected. So as I said, this is just a demo, so I'll just show you. This is a previous one. So you set what term it is, you set what year it is, and you give yourself scores out of 10. Confidence in planning, organisation in PE, level of impact on children's enjoyment, those kind of things. And here what we've got is set yourself a challenge for the next term. So I've put develop a better understanding of pathways for gifted and talented children to progress. Okay, so you can look back on those things and say, have I achieved that target? Again, you can see it's like the other areas of the curriculum, that it's that personal development of a teacher is setting himself challenges and can he meet them. It also means that you can identify where there are gaps in your staff's knowledge, spend your money on that, improve their confidence in that area, and you can demonstrate impact. Another feature we've put in there, another thing we've looked at is one of the criteria of the PE school funding now is that every child is doing some activity. So I was in a school last week, they've got 220 children doing an activity every single week, and they're patting themselves on the back and high-fiving each other. And I said, unfortunately, someone's going to ask you about the other 57 who aren't doing anything. So, we can be, that's fantastic, but what do we do? So we need to be able to identify these things. Within the club manager, in most primary schools, you'll have 5 or 6 or maybe 7 or 8 different people running clubs. and there are bits of paper with registers on. Some schools are a lot more sophisticated than that. I'm downplaying that. But to bring all that data together is important so that you can then say, this is how many children we're working with in clubs, in school fixtures, which kids have engaged in our activities, which kids are not engaging in the activities, so we can isolate that group, target them with some funding, resources, time, and put some intervention in place so that they have come to a club, so that then when we look at our figures, we've made an impact. So when you're using this system, you just click on to add a club. The system is linked to SIMS or to the management system of the school, and it's all GDPR compliant as you'd expect and data protection ready. So you add the names of the kids to the school. You can print a register that looks like that. You can inform parents, so it'll do a standard letter that you can copy and paste and send out on email or on a school letterhead. But what it'll also do is it'll create this signpost page, and you'll see the branding disappears off this. This is a page that can be attached to your school website. Just link to it from your home page and get your teachers into the habit of, whenever they're asked by a parent what clubs are going on in school, because they're the ones that get asked when they're handing the kids over, just get them to say, just look on the parent signpost page. Everything's on there. So whoever's running the club can go in here and change the dates, and it's in real time. So I, as a parent, I want to know if that club's happening tonight. I'm naturally going to ask my class teacher, because that's the only person I see. If they say, if you look on signpost, I look on signpost on my phone, potentially, which is what a lot of parents are doing, and see that date's not on. Or see there's a new date added. So signpost is working really well for schools because it's reducing the burden on teachers of having to know that. What it also does, and this is an important report, I think, this is part of the data that it collects. So that club manager idea will give you data. I'll see if I can zoom this in a little bit. You can see what clubs are happening in your school, male, female, pupil premium, SEN, and you can also identify issues. So like I said earlier, you can look on this report and go, my year 5 and 6 girls aren't attending much activity, so we need to put on a fixture, put on an activity that they will enjoy. So we'll ask them what they want to do, we'll put on some activity, and then we'll run the report again in a month, and hopefully we'll have some numbers up there. So if you've got these reports, you can demonstrate that you've made progress by engaging these kids. And obviously that's what this conference is about today, is can we engage those children? Hopefully, and we've got this from, it's in the brochure that some of you have got, there's a testimonial in the brochure that says, since they bought Spiral PE, the participation in after-school clubs has gone up, because the kids are not going, I hate PE, I'm not looking forward to the PE lesson. They're engaging because they're looking forward to their coach or their teacher delivering that lesson because it's fun, and they're engaging in more clubs. So hopefully that has a knock-on effect. So you can spend your money where you need it to spend it. This report here gives you names of children. Obviously these are made-up names. I've pulled them in from a different list. Names of children, what year they're in, and how many activities they're going. A big mistake schools make is creating more clubs for more sporty kids to come to more activities. So we're going to put on more sports stuff, and that kid comes to football on a Monday, rugby on a Tuesday, netball on a Wednesday. Hockey, people are nodding in the room because that happens. And then we've got that much activity going on. But really, it's not individual kids that you're looking at. Schools are going to be asked what is happening with the kids who aren't coming to anything. Now, I chatted with someone earlier that we were talking about treasure hunts. Treasure hunts are a great way of getting kids. It's an orienteering thing. You don't tell kids we're going to do orienteering and you're now going to walk 2 miles over your course of your lunchtime. You give them a treasure hunt to do. But you can put that on your activity tracking, so you can measure that. I just want to come on to, we're all right for time just a little bit. I just want to come on to how we're going to assess in PE. And as I said, the kids are in the system because they're linked to SIMS, because some of the schools we work with have got quite a high turnover of children in tough inner city areas. They've got a real problem with that. They've got a real turnover of the kids that are in. So we don't want to duplicate the workup for the PE coordinator who has to constantly change class lists. So that's why it's linked. Within the assessments, what we do, I'll go here. We've got a class. We're going to assess them at the end of term 1. And it brings up, again, I'll try and, can everyone see that? Okay. It brings up the name of the kids, and you give them a score out of 10 in all those physical activity areas. And again, when you click on any of those physical activity areas, it will show you what the 36 end of year expectations are for their age group. So you know what you're aiming for. So the teacher does this for a class. Now, me and my colleague who was over there, Gareth, we've worked in a lot of schools. We've tested this. We've done assessments with classes we've worked with. It takes about, if you know your kids, it takes about 40 minutes once a term, at the end of your term, to give them a score. So it's not too onerous a task. But what it will do, when you've put that data in throughout the year, is it'll create this. And I have got a little plus sign on this one. This is an individual child's PE report. So you can see here that Albert wasn't very good at reactions, so it's RAG rated, red cause for concern, emerging, orange, meeting, green, highlights gifted and talented kids. But you can see that there's a progress measure as well. Now what we've done is we've added in an attitude column. So we're actually scoring them out of 19 skill areas across the year, across the term, 3 times a year. Now that sounds a lot because people go, we've never done anything like that for PE. But that's the only reason it sounds a lot. It doesn't sound a lot for any other subject, and PE is that important. We've now got to show progress. So we're showing quite a lot of progress with Albert, and we've done a fantastic job with him because we've got him out of the reds that he was in. He was in emerging, we've got him to meeting. So reaction time, we worked with Albert on his reaction times. And what you've got here for Albert, who is a year 1 pupil, is you've got his 36 end of year statements. Now we have got schools that send this out. This goes home in school bags at the end of the year. Our delivery schedule has this happening in December, so the end of the first term, just before Easter, and then June, so you can get it into school bags. So you can send out a full report for a child. But what you can also do is you could just take that evidence, write your statement that goes, Albert's really come on with his reactions this year. He could probably do with working on his balance, because you're using evidence to show that. Now, if you can do that for every child in the school, what you can do is you can create, and the various bits I've shown you, you can create reports that show you how every child is progressing in PE. This is just a nice little feature that we added because the kids were in and because we could, where you can put a star of the week, you can put a class of the week, and you can print a certificate with their name so they can stand at the front of their reward assembly exactly the same as anybody else does. We suggest that schools use the class of the week as a reward system, exactly as you would with your attendance system, which a lot of schools do. There's a class prize for the class that get the best attendance over the course of the year, the class that does best in PE, and that's not wins everything, shows the best teamwork, has got the best motivation, all bring their PE kit. It's all the factors that we're looking at. You can give them a certificate that rewards that. So the net result, and I would expect that most of the people who are in this room, most of the people here today are heads, are SLT, are people who are advising schools, okay? What you want to be able to do is get the data and give that to governors and show that people are doing their jobs properly, because you're managing these people. So you've got your assessments for individual children. We've looked at your teacher confidence. We've looked at the activity report where the kids are doing what clubs. There is an SLT password because not everybody gets privy to this. You don't want everyone seeing this information. But it will effectively, using that system as I've just shown you, it will effectively create an SLT report for you, PE, that shows you average progress made by your year groups in PE, pupil premium SEN. And again, this is average, so it can be drilled down. So you can highlight where there are areas and go, maybe my year 3 teacher hasn't made, the boys in year 3 haven't made as much progress as the boys in year 6. So can I get my year 3 teacher talking to my year 6 teacher about how that happens? Again, PE is no different to any other subject. The only difference is it hasn't been viewed, it hasn't been given the priority it should have had before, but it is now. So you've got your PE pupil progress. You've got your staff confidence progress. So again, you can see the confidence has grown. You've got your pupil activity outside of lessons. So you've got all the clubs you're running and the breakdown of the groups that it's happening in. And then you've got your PE reward, star of the week and class of the week in there. In essence, that's a large part of your evidence that you've got to publish on the website. I can't fill that in for you because that's got to have direct influence on your school improvement plan. So you've got to put what your school improvement plan is. And there's a really good AFPE Youth Sports Trust template for doing your evidence plan. And I don't know if everybody in the room knows, but Ofsted are planning to spot check 5% of primary schools in April just on sports premium, just on PE and sports premium. So when I've had head teachers say to me, it wasn't even mentioned in my last inspection, it wasn't even questioned, they're going to do spot checks in April. Now, one of the things they're going to choose, it's not a random spot check. Schools that haven't got their evidence templates uploaded will be identified as they're probably not doing what we need them to do. We'll go see what they're doing with over £20,000 a year. And when you get your healthy schools and healthy capital fund money in April, the extra 4,000 or 5,000 when we get more criteria on that, it'll just lead to more scrutiny. This kind of data is what I think schools need to have. Okay? So that, I suppose, in essence, is the system. I've done it in a bit of a whistle stop because I know that you'd probably prefer to be having lunch than listening to me bang on for much longer. I get that. The reason we're here today is to speak to influencers, because we've set Spiral PE up as a community of schools sharing best practice. So we encourage every school that we are working with to send us suggestions to improve the system. Okay? So if we go back to the slides, you'll see here, this is a big thing for us. Leeds Beckett's University have now embedded Spiral PE in all trainee teacher placements. So when their trainee teachers are going out into primary schools, if the school doesn't have a curriculum in place already that they say, no, you must use this, they're all using Spiral PE. And that's because we've worked with them to develop it so far that they're happy with it being, this is modern academic thinking, this is everything it should be, this is what we want our teachers to work with. So they're a development partner with us. So it's not PE partner in isolation. As I said earlier, we work with head teachers, we work with lots of schools, we work with school. One of the head teachers we work really closely is now head of school improvement in Leeds, so he's got feedback into this. We've got the university working with us really closely, and the idea of, as I say, it's a community of schools, is everybody who's involved can send us an email and say, what about this? So I was in a school last week who said to me, you know, your pupil premium and your SEN columns, could you add EAL for me? Because that's now a criteria we've been judged on because we don't want to see a gap. So can we add that in? So we're working on that in the background to add that in. Another school have said to me, can you add, you know, on your club manager, can you add a folder so I can put my risk assessment for that activity directly into there? So this is a developing process, okay? This is you buy a license for a year and then you renew every year if you're happy with it, if you like it, if it's worked for you. In the brochures on the top right-hand corner, there is some there's some testimonials from schools that have worked with it. There's one in Cornwall, there's one in Wigan, I think there's one in Bradford in there as well. We've got lots more. If anybody wants to know anything else about it, please just let me know. I think that's around where we're up to. Thank you for your time. We've got 3 or 4 minutes for any questions, and I'd ask people not to be shy. If you've got any questions at all, anything you think I might have missed out or anything that we could look at, suggestions add into the platform, please let me know. We're really keen to work with you guys. So if schools want us to come and see them and have a chat with them, that's absolutely fine. If schools we're working with academy trusts, and this program has been rolled out across all their schools, that's great too. So we just want to have a collaboration, because going back to the start, we've created this because we think it's best practice that we want to share and get as many kids enjoying PE as possible. Thank you very much.